Good morning, everybody. At 10:01, we'll call to order our Board of Commissioners meeting today. If you would please rise with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. At this time, we'll accept public comment for items not appearing on our agenda today. Is there any public comment? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, we will offer public comment opportunities for each item as it's under consideration. Is there anything we need to add to our agenda today?
None that I'm aware of.
We're all good. Okay. All right. Look for a motion to approve the sets of minutes before us today.
Motion to approve the minutes from the Board of Commissioners meeting and work session.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay. All right, we have a presentation this morning and just an update on some actions we took last year for our electricity procurement. It's a big part of our budget, and so we welcome up John Fronick to discuss some of the results of that procurement we did. So good morning, John.
Good morning. I want to provide an update on the county's electric energy supply initiatives. There's three primary areas of focus. Most of our accounts are now with the Penn State Facilities Engineering Institute through a CoStar's RFQ. We also have the correctional facilities solar array and the arrangement that we have there. And then the county is also participating in a solar power purchase agreement initiative investigation to see if it would make sense for us to partner with other local entities to procure group pricing on solar power. The first focus area is our participation in with Penn State Facilities through electric procurement RFQs, where the county's accounts were shopped with suppliers who offered bids in an attempt to provide pricing that is lower than the price to compare that is listed for each account. 36 of the county's 39 eligible accounts were awarded to suppliers who beat the individual prices to compare for each account. 2 accounts received bids that were higher than their price to compare rate, so they will remain with the provider of last resort, which is West Penn Power. The other account worth mentioning is the correctional facility, which must remain with West Penn Power due to the net metering arrangement that accommodates the county's solar array. More to come on that shortly. Through 3 procurement events, the county's eligible accounts started new 36-month contracts on January 1 that expire at the end of the 2024 calendar year. Total savings over the 36-month period are estimated to be just over $36,000. This number, though, does not take into account the considerable savings that we may experience at Willowbank building. This building was previously on an hourly real-time pricing structure, basically a variable on-demand pricing that fluctuated with peak usage periods. We've now have that on a fixed rate. So if you apply our new fixed pricing to last year's usage, the stated savings for the next 3 years could possibly double the overall number. We spent some time this past year evaluating the best way to move forward with the accounts that serve the correctional facility, given that there is a substantial solar array on the property now. We have a good problem in that the solar array has produced more energy than the facility is consuming. And this involves net metering of the excess production by utilizing West Penn Power as the supplier of any needed grid power at night and periods of low solar production. Lifetime generation at the end of 2021 included 1,788 renewable energy credits that were sold at market for almost $46,000 in net proceeds. We also ended the year with over $34,000 in banked over production proceeds. Billings for this account will start to reflect that it was returned back to West Penn Power on or around January 19th. That is because in these typical net metering situations, you have to have both the transmission and the production aligned with the provider of last resort. So that account was returned to West Penn Power. Constellation has been gracious enough to provide us that banked energy as we revert back.
John,
Yes.
I know you didn't work on the initial detailed spreadsheet for the savings for solar, but if anything, it looks like the numbers are coming in better than the original financial forecast.
Yes, I took a very cursory overview look at that, and the system is producing, based on the weather that we've been having, the system is producing above expectations to this point. Of course, we are, at the mercy of the weather, and so, but yeah, the system is doing very well.
So we're not only helping the environment, we're also saving a noticeable amount of money for the taxpayer.
That is correct.
And based on the work of the commissioners, many commercial properties in Center County would now be able to do the same thing utilizing the C-based program. So again, thanks for your help on this, John. I just wanted to get that in there.
Absolutely. The third category is relative to our participation in investigation of a solar power purchase agreement spearheaded by the State College Area School District. Green Sky Development Group was brought on board to lead the project. I have been the county's representative on a subcommittee that is responsible for working with Green Sky to develop an RFP for the project. So far, we've received a lot of data through an informal request for information to help identify points that need to be included within the formal RFP process. And there are a couple good points here. Given our timeline expectations, we need to decide whether we should pursue building our own solar facility. And the big question there is, do any of the participants have land available for such a construction project? Or should we focus on solar fields that are currently operating or are close to coming online upon completion of construction? So there are several projects in the, I would call it the tri-state area, but there are a lot of factors to consider whether it would be in-state or out-of-state. So once you cross state lines, there's a lot of other regulations that you need to take into consideration. And there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had relative to renewable energy credits, because Pennsylvania's guidelines and restrictions basically creates a higher value for the Pennsylvania renewable energy credits that are created versus a standard credit that you could potentially purchase if you had, carbon neutrality goals. So that's a question that we need to ask or decide amongst the group, would be how to utilize the renewable energy credits that will be produced from the system that we may have purview over. Some of the entities may want to keep the credits to achieve some level of carbon neutrality, while others may want to forgo the credits in order to obtain a better cost on their energy usage. Also, a key point that the county will need to weigh in on prior to the release of the RFP will be the group's desired term length for the solar power purchase agreement. Newly constructed projects typically go out 20 to 25 years. Oops, I'm sorry. Typically go out 20 to 25 years, but if we purchase power from an existing system, we could go as low as 5 to a 10-year term. Now, everybody that's participating in the group has different terms, contract terms in place right now that expire at varying points in time moving forward. So the idea here is, while we need to identify the length of the term, each individual would be able to join that term whenever their current contracts expire, but that hard stop end date would still be in place. So while we may join in 2024, depending on how long the term agreement is, that will, we may have an odd amount of months that we're in this term. It could be, 42 months, 47 months, it just depends. Relative to our current situation with current and future savings, to date we've again have almost 46,000 in renewable energy credits. Excess solar production has netted us over $34,000. So to date we have a total credit and savings of almost $80,000. Moving forward over the next 3 years, energy credits could produce almost another $78,000. Excess solar production could be $45,000, and if you wrap in the CoStar savings that we're expecting on the conservative side of things, there's another $36,000, so almost $160,000 in savings and credit that could be experienced by the county. One other area that the county has decided to be included in was we sponsored the Center County Solar and EV Charger Co-op. The original goal was to have 100 members, and as of today, there's 144 households that have at least signed up for interest. The current period closed in January, so we'll move forward with the identified contractor who basically won that RFP. But then if there's additional residents that would like to potentially participate in the second round, that will then potentially open up again for another round. If there are any questions.
Fantastic, John. Yes, please. Any questions, comments for John?
So John, I'm noticing that the solar co-op has proven to be quite popular as well, so I'm glad the county and a number of other entities sponsored them. It's just amazing that with the relatively low prices for electric power in central Pennsylvania, that solar pays you back and then produces for another 30 plus years after you've gotten your money back. I know initially, just on our main buildings, not counting all the 911 sites and senior centers, et cetera, the county was spending well over $400,000 on just electricity, just on our main buildings. I know when we did the did the energy conservation project, that saved us a little over 30% of our total main buildings. The remaining amount at the correctional facility was almost 40% of our electric bill, because that's such a large facility. That number is now actually, we're paying a negative amount for electricity at the correctional facility. Am I roughly right on that?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not only free, it's actually paying us money back. And then with the remaining 30% or so of our electric, we're shopping that around to receive some savings. So thanks for your work and Margaret's work on that. And then we're going to be working with the school district and a variety of other governmental entities to hopefully at some point get to 100% renewable power. Is that a rough summary?
That's a great summary.
Okay.
One of the things we need to consider relative to the solar power purchase agreement, some of the participants have voiced some concerns about, how long of a term do we want to lock into?
Yeah.
Because obviously with solar, with economies of scale, pricing could continue to go down. So how long do we want to actually lock ourselves in to a current rate, balancing that against increasing costs of energy versus costs of doing solar potentially going down over the long term? Where do we find that balancing point of a long-term commitment? So that's something that we'll have to talk about further.
But yeah, thanks for the hard work, John, and just amazing what renewable energy, especially solar, has done just over the last couple of years.
I've personally done it at my home. The math works. It's good for the climate, the environment. So it's
Good for the local economy too.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of construction people employed to put the solar installations up.
Yes.
Thank you, John. This is an important part of how we do county business, literally keeping the lights on, and it was good to just showcase this to let us know, citizens know, where we're at in this process. So we'll continue to see the savings of the correctional facility and monitor the work that's being done by the Energy Group. So thank you again for the presentation today. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, John, again. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, heading into our COVID-19 planning and response section. As we all know, on Friday, the CDC released new guidance, and we wanted to turn it over to Margaret just for a conversation on how we proceed forward with implementing their new metrics and formulas into our policies and procedures. So, Margaret, turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks very much. So, as we're all very much aware, we are approaching the 2-year mark with respect to COVID-19 and all of the planning and response that has been necessary. And during this period, as the county has navigated through how best to respond, we have aligned ourselves as best as possible with the guidance from the CDC and with their best practices throughout this 2-year period. So as everyone is aware, and as Commissioner Pipe has mentioned, the CDC did issue new guidance on Friday and provided a new assessment tool to help communities decide what prevention steps to take based on the latest data. They've identified COVID-19 community levels of low, medium, and high, and these levels are determined by looking at 3 factors: the number of hospital beds being used by COVID-19 patients, hospital admissions, and the total number of new COVID-19 cases. Each of the 3 categories has recommendations for preventions, especially around mask wearing. So currently, Center County falls in the high category, and this is the category that does recommend the continuation of masking in indoor settings. And as the numbers change, we are hopeful that Center County's designation will change to medium or low, and that indoor mask wearing will no longer be a recommendation. So given the fluidity of these criteria and when we move, and hopefully soon move from the high to medium and low, we're going to come back into a commissioners meeting if this is satisfactory to you all, and make some recommendations about revisions to our universal masking policy that would be indexed to the CDC 3 levels of mitigation, and at that point then the county can move accordingly in terms of what category that we might be in at the time. So as of today, we're in the red high category. Hopefully we'll be moving soon to one of the lower 2 categories. So that's where we are. We'd like to come back in Thursday to a Board of Commissioners meeting with some proposed revisions to our masking policy that would allow the flexibility to make adjustments as warranted.
Thank you very much, Margaret. One of the key things that the new, as they're calling it, the community levels the CDC has put out is if we fall below 200 cases per 100,000 residents over a 7-day period, we essentially can get into the green category. If counties stay above that, they essentially can't enter the CDC's green category that removes mask wearing. So we are in that good spot where we have achieved less than 200 cases over the last 7 days, and we continue to drop and drop. I think the challenge for us will be, as we know, is going to be getting that hospital formula and just to understand how many admissions Mount Denny's seeing, also how many beds the CDC or the PADOH is counting. And so once we get more information on that, I think we can make more better judgments. And we're really thankful to see Mount Denny continue to see their caseloads at the hospitalizations really decrease. I think they're around 14 or 15, which is great news. Less than 75% of where they were, huge reduction, which is great. But that's going to be the missing piece of just understanding when is Mount Denny able to be at a low point that we can, again, remove some of these mitigation steps. So it's helpful to see. So, yeah.
It's also my understanding that the CDC adjusts this rating once a week, every 7 days.
Yeah.
So it's not as if we're going to see
Right.
a daily change or fluctuation. It's going to be on
Right.
that 7-day cycle.
Right. Right.
I think it really is time for us to review this and get this behind us.
Sure.
I appreciate all the CDC stuff, but really, I think society has moved past it. A lot of folks are not masking anymore, so I'm not sure what our mitigation efforts are really going to change as far as the outcome. And as far as the vaccination, I would put that to bed too, or the vaccination requirements. I think we are really, and I say this simply out of the fact that the CDC is a political body as much as anything else. And I see what's going on in Washington, where they're having 435 representatives and 100 senators and all the staff and all the folks in our government all gathered tonight without masks on. And I think they put it behind them, and I think it's really time for us to do the same. So I can't urge my fellow commissioners enough to move with great speed to put the masking requirement to bed. So that's where I'm at.
No, understood. I think we also have to understand that we have a correctional facility that is considered a congregate care facility, and I hope that you would not be in favor of removing the masking.
That's a separate conversation.
Well, I've heard people say masks everywhere are gone, so I hope you commit to at least supporting masks at our correctional facility.
We'll see how the numbers look.
Okay. Well, that's something, again, for our staff who are in close quarters there, we have to be very mindful not to just remove all mitigation efforts, but to be strategic and targeted. But I hear you loud and clear, Commissioner. I think that many of us sense that whether or not we've had COVID or have had the vaccine and boosters, it is time to start to live with the virus and to look at this as more of a seasonal illness. I think that I'm in agreement with that. But again, we've always been mindful and studious about this. It just came out on Friday, but once we can gather with Mountain Indian and appreciate how their admissions and percentage of inpatient beds for COVID are staffed, that'll help us again to move forward and again live with this. But hear you loud and clear, absolutely. Yep.
I think we need to follow the CDC. We've followed them for 2 years, and it would appear, hopefully, we're finally to the point where we're going to move from a high category to a medium or lower one. And really, once we move to medium or low, I think our only exception is going to be the correctional facility, which is a congregate facility which has different metrics from the CDC. Because we've had instances at the correctional facility, thankfully, luckily, nobody's passed away up there, unlike a broad variety of other county facilities where there have been fatalities. So I think at the correctional facility, we should continue to be cautious. And we should follow the CDC congregate guidelines for that one county department.
All right, so again, we've concluded our discussion today, but on Thursday we'll most likely be taking some policy procedural action at that time. So more to come on that. Okay. All right, moving into our contracts authorization section, we're going to welcome up our Director of Elections and Voter Registration, Beth Leckman, and she's going to discuss a contract with Phoenix Graphics. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning. Sorry, I'm not.
No, you're good.
They might not be able to see my face.
You're fine.
So I'm here presenting a contract for the vote-by-mail packages with Phoenix Graphics. They will provide the services necessary to get the vote-by-mail packages out in the mail to the voters. That contract is an estimated $21,000. That would provide the postage, the mailing, and everything necessary to get those out to our voters.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Soup to nuts in terms of getting these ballots out, and as we know, there's a lot of uncertainty with the process coming out with new districts, et cetera, but they are committed to, as soon as that's all resolved, getting our ballots out expeditiously.
Correct.
Okay. We would look for a motion to add this contract with Phoenix Graphics to next week's consent agenda.
Motion to add the contract with Phoenix Graphics, Inc. to next week's consent agenda.
I will second it with a
Yes,
comment.
please, yes.
Is there a provision in there to deal with the fact that there may be some legal challenges to the mail-in?
Correct. There's both provisions in there, one with any redistricting and the late timeliness of the election, and additionally, any vote-by-mail legislation that would change that effectiveness is in there as well.
Yeah, I was sure there was. I just wanted to.
Contract would be null and void if that scenario were to play out.
All right, thank you.
Yes, it's not as if we're committed to using them.
Correct.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion or questions? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Beth. Thank you. Okay, for our Planning and Community Development Office, we'll welcome up Ray to discuss these items. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Commissioners. This morning, you have two items in front of you, Resolution 4 of 2022, which are off. Oh, it is off. Sorry about that. Two items, Resolution 4 of 2022, authorizing submission of an application to the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for funding through the Community Conservation Partnership Program known as C2P2 for the Soaring Eagle Wetland Phase 2 project. Also, a letter of support for that project for Phase 2 and the expansion of some improvements that they're looking at under this new grant. Wildlife for Everyone Foundation owns two properties in Houston Township. As you know, the county sponsored the first phase, which is $250,000 award that came in 2019. That included a parking area and a small stretch of trail that connected ADA parking spaces to the Bald Eagle Creek, an addition of an ADA compliant fishing pier and pavilion and signage. Those improvements, just to give you an update, are currently ready for construction, and they're pending approval upon a license agreement with the Joint Rail Authority. The Center County entered into an agreement with Wildlife for Everyone for lease and operations and maintenance for 25 years on May 13th of 2021, and that was due to the fact that Center County stepped up and is an eligible applicant for these funds under DCNR. The lease does acknowledge, though, that Wildlife for Everyone operates and maintains the property and the activities that are there. Under this Phase 2 application, they're looking for $250,000 again. I wish to pursue the same partnership with Center County to apply for the Park Rehabilitation and Development category. February 3rd, our staff met with Barb Schrader from Wildlife for Everyone and Wes Farringer, who's our DCNR regional rep, on a pre-application meeting. The proposed improvements under this grant include permanent restrooms, additional 1,000 linear feet of ADA compliant trails and bird blinds, observation decks, and entrance and interpretive signage. The two items today, Resolution 4 and the letter of support, are integral to this application in order for them to be eligible and to have Center County sponsor Wildlife for Everyone in this next phase.
Okay, thank you very much, Ray. Any questions or comments on these items? Okay, excited to see their augmentation of this project. Hopefully they receive good news this coming year, Ray. Okay, we look for a motion to add these two items to next week's consent agenda.
Motion to add planning items 1 and 2 to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Ray, thanks again.
Thank you.
We'll look for a motion to approve today's consent agenda.
Motion to approve today's consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion has carried. Okay. Commissioner Higgins, we'll turn it over to you for a check run.
Sure. A smaller than average check run of $1,152,825.50. And the check of the week is to Center Communications, Inc. For $48,000 to maintain a portion of our 911 infrastructure. The 911 infrastructure is very costly to maintain, but obviously the citizens of Center County want that system to run smoothly. They want the backup to run smoothly, and they want the backup to the backup to be running smoothly. So we appreciate Center Communications' assistance with keeping that infrastructure running well and always available for the citizens of Center County. I would like to make a motion to approve the check run dated February 18th.
I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on the check run? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay. We do not have an administrator's report today, but we do have a letter in support of the entrepreneurial pathway. And this was something we actually took action on, I believe, in early 2020. And this is for several of our educational entities here in Center County to support them in developing this, and this would be between CPI, Bald Eagle, Bellefonte, and Penns Valley school districts. Really an innovative approach, and so they're just reaching out to us again to see if we'd be willing to support this again as they go after this this grant, and they're calling it the Idea Hub for Central Pennsylvania. And so it's again exciting opportunity through Department of Labor and Industry, but we're just looking for a letter of support. Is there any comments or questions on this?
Good idea.
Yeah, very, very happy to support CPI in our local school districts in assisting with entrepreneurship and basically education after high school.
Absolutely. Okay, fantastic. We look for a motion to approve this letter of support.
Motion to approve the letter of support for the entrepreneurial pathway.
All right, so moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion has carried. Okay, Commissioner Dershowitz, we'll turn it over to you.
All right, we have a voter registration report this morning that includes 105,056 total registrants here in Center County. The highlight reel, the Democratic Party has 44,060 registrants. The Green Party, 146. The Libertarian Party has 665. No affiliation is 14,154. And the Republican Party is 42,181. When you add the 3,850 all others, you get the total of 105,056. The feature party of the day, I'm going to go back a little bit, and we're going to go to the unaffiliated. And the unaffiliateds have 4. But I just want to, it just, there's always, it's always curious when you look at these numbers of the folks that don't want to be associated with what you would call the main parties. Sure. And you look at the independents, independent workers, independent Democrats, independent Republicans, independent, all different, all different spellings. But that's what makes up the 3,850. And those folks have a big voice, not so much in the primaries, but in the general election. So I want to just recognize all of them today. But I also want to recognize another precinct, which is Precinct 54, which is Haines Township. And then Precinct 54, they vote at the Civic Club in Aaronsburg. And the numbers in Haines Township 54, total registered voters 793 in the last election, ballots cast 295, which led to a percentage turnout of 37.20%, which is a pretty standard voting turnout for most precincts. I also wanted to note the Judge of Elections is Patricia Valentine, Minority Inspector is Jane Van Heist, and the Majority Inspector is Valerie Weaver, and the clerks are Harry and Diane Ward. And again, we want to thank the folks at the Civic Club for allowing us the opportunity to use their facility, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any executive sessions to report or hold?
There are no executive sessions to report. However, the board does need to meet in executive session for 2 personnel items prior to adjournment.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. Okay, we have the rest of our bid and proposal scheduled there. We'll have a pretty steady stream of opening up some bids and awarding them throughout March. We do want to note that we did add, and it is listed here on our public meeting schedule, a retirement board meeting for today at 1:30, and it'll have a single item on it, and it'll be the consideration of the divestment of any assets our $140 million retirement fund has from Russian-held assets. We've been seeing many places across the world remove support from Russia during this incursion into Ukraine, and we're seeing it even at the state level. Stacey Garrity, the Pennsylvania Treasurer, has divested from Russian-held assets. Even the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board is removing all Russian vodkas from the shelves, which, again, we really want to stand with Ukraine and support them in any way that we can, and hopefully other pension funds across Pennsylvania and really the country will take heed and also include this. So it'll be a single item, but we did want to note that anybody's welcome to join that meeting. We won't have CNET coverage, unfortunately, but it is a public meeting again at 1:30. So I just want.
We generally said that there's support for that move, and I
Absolutely.
would support it. I don't know how much we actually do have invested. I'd be curious to see what the number actually is.
Yeah, I just happen to have a tie that's the colors of the Ukrainian flag. And Mike, I think you're understating a little bit when you call it an incursion. It's actually an invasion of a sovereign state, and it needs to be addressed. The violent dictator of Russia, Vladimir Putin, has invaded the Ukraine on false pretenses. The heroic Ukrainian people are resisting the overwhelming forces of the Russian dictator. We do not know if they are going to be successful. At the Pennsylvania County government level, there's maybe not a lot we can do to make the dictator of Russia and his cronies pay for starting an unnecessary war. We can, as we're going to discuss, divesting county funds, including our retirement funds, from companies headquartered in Russia. And I will join my fellow commissioners in urging that we do take this step this afternoon at the retirement board meeting.
All right, then we'll also be meeting on Thursday, as Margaret indicated earlier, to discuss some COVID-19 policies and procedures, but that's the latest from our meeting schedule. Any other questions from the press?
Looking at that COVID-19 policies, you mentioned because the conditions in our correctional facilities are different, at what point will those policies be reconsidered?
Sure, and again, CDC has a specific guidance for correctional facilities. Also, the Pennsylvania DOC also has specific guidance for their facilities as well throughout the state. Our warden is on a work group at the National Wardens Association, the Pennsylvania Wardens Association, and some of his team members serve on committees. So they're very engrossed in all the policies related to COVID-19. I think we're I think in a special circumstance where we actually take in about anywhere from 10 to 15 tenant county incarcerated individuals, which can be challenging. It's not as if we're a rural county that just houses our own individuals. So we have specific protocols on how they're put into temporary isolation, so we can make sure that as we're testing them and getting those test results back, we're not bringing individuals that have COVID-19 into the facility. So we're being very mindful of that as well. I think that we're going to see probably, again, over the 2022, a leveling of cases, this becoming a more seasonal thing that we work with healthcare authorities to work through and get good information out there to people. So we'll see throughout 2022. But unfortunately, they're still having active cases in the facility. It's a congregate care facility. So as we go throughout the year, we'll pay close attention to it.
Is the county conferring with Penn State at all? The university yesterday said they're also reviewing their policies. Are you conferring with them or simply relying on CDC?
We had a conversation last week actually with their local community and government affairs, Sharima Young. We had a meeting with her to discuss that. We said we're an open book, so please, if you have information, because it was on Thursday, we knew the guidance was going to come out Friday, but we had said to her, please, we'd like to know what Penn State is doing, just so if there's anything they're doing when it comes to testing, masking, etc., we can be working in concert with them, and anything that they're seeing here in the community, we'd love to know. We do know that next week is spring break for them, so we're going to have a deficit of about 40,000, probably with some of the other staff and professors that might go on vacation, might have less than 50,000 individuals in our community. That'll also help to decrease the spread in Center County, and we'll just see hopefully just a bottoming out of cases. So not sure when the university is going to change their policies, if it's before spring break, during spring break, or after, but we'll work with them regardless of what the situation would be.
Are the solar panels outside the prison, are they already paid for, or how's that financed? Is that infrastructure already paid for?
For the next, we have about 5 years left on our lease with an entity that we still own the land, obviously, but we're leasing it back to them. When they're leasing it to us, we're paying a fee each year. At the end of those 7 years, when it started, we have the option of buying the panels back, and then we would own it. So it's not yet paid for, but the money is in a reserve account ready to pay it if at that time that Board of Commissioners would want to purchase the solar panels back.
Thank you.
Okay.
The Pennsylvania Department of Health this morning announced that the COVID testing site in Center County would be open through March 5th. Do you know what happens after March 5th?
We actually, I believe, have a longer time frame. Yeah.
Right, so our understanding and our discussions with the Department of Health say that the testing site will be open through April 2nd.
Are you saying, Haley, that they said they're going to shorten it now, or?
I thought the email said March 5th.
Okay, okay. No, that's okay, yeah. Yeah, I think last week Michelle from AMI had said that it was April 2nd, so.
Confirmation on
Yes.
that from DOH.
Yes, you did.
And they did announce it in 2 steps, Haley, so perhaps the first announcement was through March 5th, and then
Yeah.
the second one will be through April 2nd.
Okay.
There may be a closure that's happening, just because there's an event at the Recycling and Refuse Authority that's happening through March, that they may close it? No, they're not. They're not closing it. Okay.
I would say that there will be 2 days in the middle of March, March 16th and 17th, when the center will not be open, and individuals needing testing would be referred to the Lock Haven site, but just for 2 days.
Yeah, just for 2 days.
So there will be some press releases around that as well, but
Okay.
that's the only thing that I'm aware
Okay.
of.
Okay. Yeah, the email says through Saturday, March 5th. But you're saying it might be in 2 phases, the announcement?
I think it will be continuously open through April
Yeah.
the 2nd, except for the 2 days, the March 16th.
That is
Can you
technically,
confirm
yeah.
for you?
That is technically correct. It is open from Tuesday to Saturday. So it is technically correct that it'll be open until Saturday. But whether or not it's going to close permanently, it's kind of like a series finale versus a season finale. I always get that confused. This is a season finale, not the series finale, so, yeah. Okay.
Will it stay at the Center County Recycling Center?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions before we look to go into executive session? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn at 10:41.
Executive session,
Oh, sorry, motion to go to executive session at 10:41.
Okay. Motion is second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Have a great day.